the danger of generative artificial intelligence. Is it genuinely as real as it's made out to be, the threat? Now, joining us, some of the finest voices in the country on this, Jibu Elias is a content head at India AI. Prashant Suri is a former senior manager of product marketing at Yahoo. He tracks this very closely. Ankush Sabharwal, the founder and CEO of Corova. We're also joined by Kazim Rizvi, the founding director of The Dialogue, and Rituparna Chakravarti, co-founder and executive director at TeamLease. Kazim, let me come to you first. Just in terms of the technology itself, do you believe it poses a more profound threat? I'm not talking about jobs over here or anything like that, but at the rate at which the technology has evolved, does it pose a threat to humanity and our way of living? It sounds almost like a question out of Star Trek, but that's what people are asking.
No, look, Vishnu, I think like any technology, AI does have challenges, and there are threats, of course. I think, when we look at the internet and how it started 50 years, 60 years ago, it was met with a lot of skepticism, and the same is happening with AI. But I do feel that AI is here to stay. It is the future. We cannot ignore it. We cannot ban it. I think we have to move ahead with the times. And in India, we have to look at developing the right kind of principles and the regulations and the ecosystem to support the growth of AI. I think what we need now is to come up with some sort of a principle-based regulation, which is around making sure that, number one, you have the human in the loop while you are deploying and delivering the technology. It's non-discriminatory in nature. One of the big challenges which have been discussed is how, AI can sort of exploit people and communities. I think so we have to make sure that the technology is non-discriminatory in nature. The third issue is around bias. And a lot of the human bias feeds into the AI as the technology is developed, the models are trained, etc. So we have to come up with some sort of mechanisms where you sort of reduce and minimize human bias. That's number three. Number four is around data. And I think this is something which we've been talking a lot over the last few years. We don't have a data protection law in India right now. AI depends a lot on collecting and analyzing basically large amounts of data sets, right? So what it does is it collects large amount of data sets, analyzes the patterns, and then comes up with predictive outcomes which can be looked at situations, right? So what we need right now is to protect privacy of users.
Sure.
To ensure that whatever data is being collected, it's of high quality, B, of very diverse nature,
right.
And sort of looks at different communities, different ecosystems. And even when the technology is being developed, it's important that the developers belong to different communities, different sections of society.
So diversity needs to be ensured.
Diversity, you have to have diversity by designing.
Sure, Kazim, have a sec. Jibu, where does this represent a threat for us?
So I think the whole idea of AI's future is, I don't agree with that. AI is present. We are now using it on our daily lives. The threat comes from two ways of looking at it, the long-term threat and the short-term threat. The challenge here is people tend to focus mostly on the long-term threat, whether it's a 6-month moratorium letter or what Elon Musk coming out and saying about existential threats and all, which is there to an extent. At the same time, we are forgetting the short-term threats like job loss or many other things. For example, we are seeing the screenwriters in US are on strike. The script writers are striking because they are worried that next Marvel movie will be
written on ChatGPT.
Yeah, so that's happening, and the education app, many people losing their job, and an interesting factor is also to look at how much of a fall the platforms like Fiverr has taken, where many Indians are contributing, this graphic design, coding, small level kind of job. So there are a lot of surface level job that's being displaced, but at the same time, recently World Economic Forum published a jobs report which says that by 2027 there will be 2.6 million new kind of jobs, mostly caused by AI.
So you lose some jobs. So the WEF has predicted 69 million new jobs, but 83 million jobs cut by 2027. So
yeah,
I mean,
so I think that's the thing is whenever new technology comes, we have to adopt. But at the same time, what makes AI kind of a bigger challenge is that we have always replaced our physical labor with technology. This is the first time we are replacing our cognitive ability with technology.
No, exactly.
And we as a humans dominated this planet because of our cognitive advantage. And so we are anthropomorphizing this technology and thinking that, okay, it will be like us, it will have that tendency to dominate us. That's one thing. Secondly, there's a whole question. We can speak about it, regulation, all those things. The bigger question is what should we regulate? How should we regulate? Even if something like a 6-month moratorium, it's easy to say. Who will be following these things? Who will be implementing these things? Imposing these things?
So questions are over there on implementing and on regulation. Rituparna, I think the question I really wanted to get at, and I've not really got any answer, is the entire link between AI and possible sentience. That here you've got, on the basis of shared learning, the basis of having received the sum total of human knowledge and increasingly advanced software, the ability to determine, and therefore approaching sentience. It's basically because of that you've got some of the world's leading designers and thinkers on AI warning of this alert. Where does the technology stand with regard to that?
Thanks so much, Vishnu. I think first and foremost, we have to tell ourselves that drunken driving is really not a case against cars. So I think what is happening with artificial intelligence, generative AI and all of that is amazing in itself. But the fact that anything as cool, as amazing, as path-breaking as AI can potentially, if misused, if people do not use it with the right intent, can create disruptive moments in people's lives, in careers, in jobs, in people's cognitive abilities or ability to express themselves remains. But I think it's too premature, honestly, Vishnu, to be worried about that, because I think we still don't know a lot of things about what it can do. A lot of speculation is what some of the apprehensions based on. So yes, maybe an AI, we've seen 1 or 2 examples of generative AI creating a movie or a design, but it would be far-fetched to say that we've reached a situation where each and every one of us, or our work, or non-cognitive work, our creative work can be substituted with AI. So I'm a believer that we should not jump the gun on it. Are we supposed to use it with the right intent? Yes. But it's too premature to talk about regulations. It's too premature to kind of talk about putting guardrails around it, because it has potential to create a lot of new jobs. And if I were to talk about the Indian scenario in the ecosystem, while yes, like you just shared the data, equivalent data in India suggests that there will be, and there have been, some job losses over the last decade or so on account of some work related to artificial intelligence or automation, and likely to even in the future. But there is tons of high quality jobs that it has potential of creating. And hence, let's focus on that. As a country, I think that should be what our key takeaway.
Okay. Prashant Puri, what are the sectors likely to be hit in terms of jobs going to technology?
So I think there are 2 parts here. I think data science, AI engineering are going to be the big boom sectors where we'll see massive boom. We'll see also increase in average salaries increase. I think from a negative impact perspective, I think entry-level jobs like internships would see a more near-term impact. We've seen Chegg have a big impact on their earnings and their stock price, primarily because a large part of their revenue is driven by the tutoring segment, where you've got students that want teachers, and now they're actually looking at generative AI, ChatGPT, to get that instant answer. Now, whether it's accurate or not, they're not looking at that right now, but that's an immediate impact. So teachers, customer service representatives, entry-level jobs is where I see more near-term impact, negative impact.
Okay. Ankush, just as the founder and CEO of CodeRover, an AI-powered virtual assistant, and somebody who's obviously worked in this area very closely, till what level or till what extent is AI acceptable for you, beyond which you would say this is where I shut down the technology or I restrict it?
Yeah, thanks, Vishnu, for having me here. In fact, I think my answer is going to be biased, right? So for us, bread and butter comes from AI. And we firmly believe in AI. That's why we started working on this around 6 years ago. And in fact, we used to go and talk to our clients, prospects, convince, hey, this works. And still, it was kind of very difficult. And now it is still difficult to convince people it works. And if you see, there are multiple things. One is technology ready? I think now word is accepting technology is ready. I'll tell you, before this generative AI stuff, people were not even believing us. Hey, would they be able to have the virtual assistant who could answer their customers' users' queries? Now at least people believe the technology is ready. The second thing is, are we using the technology in the right way? Right? Is the purpose good? Right? I think one of the panelists said about the biasness. Yes, it's there. The bias is there. So whatever I'm speaking, I'm biased. Right? So similarly, whatever AI system is giving us output, it's biased based on the data you give. Right? It cannot. I'm not saying it's intentional bias, but the biasness comes. Right? That's why it's very important to have the explainability, so that if there is a biasness, user is aware, hey, what kind of biasness should be there if you put the right disclaimers. So now the second I was saying is about whether we are using the right products, good purpose. And the third, of course, would be adaptability, right? We are talking a lot about it. Our organizations, our government, are we ready to accept the products coming out of using good technology? Now, I'm considering if all of these three are true, then about do we have manpower? I'll give you one statistics which I think it's mind-boggling. By 2030, we will lose, the world would lose, the globe would lose $8.5 trillion because of shortage of manpower. Right? So we're talking about the AI taking job, maybe short-term few industries, maybe the job displacement, but think about how many new jobs are being created, right? We are purely working on AI. Even our HR guy would also understand AI, right? So we need people who understand AI. There is definitely opportunity to create new industries in AI, and there is a need to use AI in all the industries. I think if you have to think that way, upskilling, reskilling, and some displacement.
I think reskilling is going to be a key part of this going forward, but do spare a thought for those who do lose their jobs and don't really have the ability to reskill or the opportunities. I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us. This is a topic which I suspect we're going to be discussing for a while. Where exactly is the technology? Does it represent a threat? And how do we adapt from an economic standpoint to the opportunities which lie or the opportunities which are going away? We're out of time on this program. From all of us here on the Left, Right and Centre team, good night.